Hey guys, today we are going to be working on Pinch Pop Monsters, so let's get started. What we have for our materials today is we need to have our mat here. Just a reminder, have your students keep all of their stuff on their mat. The more clay that they spread around the table, the longer it takes us to clean at the end of the day, and the teachers get very grumpy when there's clay left on their tables. When you get your mat at the beginning of the year, it's nice and clean like this. After one use, it starts to get filthy front and back. So the more that we use these, if they're not being cleaned, they're going to leave a bigger mess as they sit on the table. Please remind your students not to scratch away at any of this dry clay. It releases silica dust into the air, and that's very, very harmful for everyone to breathe, causes silicosis. Once you tell your students that, they will not touch the mat. So I would tell them on the very first day, hey guys, make sure, I know it's tempting, make sure you're not scratching away. You might have to remind a couple of them throughout the year, but generally speaking, students do not want to breathe in harmful stuff. We will also need a damp paper towel, our clay, small thing of water, our colored pencil, which does double duty. We use it to free draw at the end of the class, and our paintbrush, which we use double duty also for our glaze days. So today is a build day. We don't have to really worry about glaze information, but we're going to get our binder here, open it up, pull out our lesson plan. We like to do this in the fall because, you know, monsters and Halloween and ooh, so creepy. Kids absolutely eat it up. So this is our lesson plan for this, our instructions. This particular project, the art history is Basil Gogos is the artist. I'll flip it over so you can see that. He is a famous artist who illustrated monsters. He even made a magazine or a book called Monsters in Filmland. So this one is Herman Munster. Here's a little picture of Basil and one of the paintings that he did. Flip this back over. Just a reminder, we have our art history lesson right here. And then we have all of our steps. You can just read them to the students, 1 through 5. If you forget, no worries, just read it just like this. A couple of things to note here that you need to show your students. Something very, very important when we build our Pinch Pop Monsters is we want to make sure that what we are adding, all the attachments to our monsters, because they tend to fall off, clay is just tricky like that. We want to make sure that all the things we add are short, fat, and simple. No long, skinny, beautiful lines like this. All of this is fine, but these long horns right here, as cute as they are, I can promise you are going to snap off before your student gets it back. And that's a major bummer for them. So I always tell my students, hey guys, keep it short, keep it fat, nice and stubby like that. And not long and thin because it's going to break off. If you tell the students this at the beginning, they'll be much more likely to adhere to those rules. But then also, if they do something that's a little bit longer and thinner and you've told them it's probably going to break off, when they get it back and it's broken, they're much less sad about it because, hey, you know, you told them, right? So again, there's the little guy that we're working with. They love to look at this while you are reading all of the directions. The colors of this really resonate with the kids. So this is a really fun fall project for us to do. So let's get started. Step number 1, we're gonna set aside 1/3 of our clay to use later. Now, do you think these students know what 1/3 of this clay is? Absolutely not. So I always show them this is what about 1/3 looks like, and it's no big deal if it's more or less. Pretty much like you want this one to be twice the size of this guy over here. So we're setting this aside. This is going to be for our eyes and our mouth, whatever we're going to put in there. Form the 2/3 remainder of your clay into a smooth ball by rolling it in your hands. Don't use your table or it will become a diamond. Now, here's what I always show my students. It's probably honestly going to become a diamond anyways, no matter what they do. But if you roll it in your hands, you'll get a nice ball like this. If you roll it on the table, cool shape, like a little dreidel, but not what we're going for. So we want to have a ball. And the smoother it is to begin with, the smoother it's going to be when we are done. Step number 2, push your thumb into the center of the clay ball. The thumb should be in far enough so that the clay ball doesn't fall off your thumb, but not so far that it pokes through the ball, creating a donut. So you should be able to kind of wiggle it around like this. If you stick your finger all the way through, you're gonna get a hole in there. We're not making donuts, so I mean, that's a cool project, but not for today. Step number 3, with your thumb still inside the ball, pinch and squeeze your thumb and your other fingers together, thinning the walls of the pot. And then these are the walls of your pot right here. Rotate while pinching until the walls of your pot are smooth and even. Here is the, probably, aside from the attachments being attached really well and not being long and thin, with pinch pots, the most common problem that we have with them is they will explode in the kiln because they're too thick. We want to shoot for, in pottery, want to shoot for 1/4 of an inch thickness for everything. Now, that means that if I put something in the kiln that is this thick, that's far more than 1/4 of an inch. This is only 1/4 of an inch-ish, right? So this is less likely to explode in the kiln. This will most likely explode. So the kids will forget the bottoms of their pots right here. So you need to make sure, you will literally have to go around to each student's pot and just double check it. Just check it. I like to tell them, hey guys, if your bottom is not thin enough, this is like the butt of your monster, your butt's gonna blow off in the kiln. And they think that's hilarious. So go around and make sure that every student's walls are the same thickness from here all the way down. Don't forget that little back butt right there. Now this is pretty good. This is pretty even right here. I do have some cracks right here. That is what our handy little paper towel is for. Now remember, not everybody needs the water. You just need to have that like every 4 kids or so need to have, just so that they can reach a water. And as you work with your clay, the clay is going to, the moisture from the clay, the water will be drawn out by your hands because your hands are drier than the clay, and it's going to crack. So you'll have a lot of students that are like, my clay is cracking, I need new clay. We don't have extra clay. You guys are not the Incredible Hulk. You cannot carry 50 pounds of clay. Every student gets 1 ball of clay. And no, you cannot just go to the sink and squish it with some water and make it better. It's not really how clay works. What you can do is smooth it out with a paper towel, but the better option is to work quickly and efficiently so that your clay is not drying out. So always have your students, when they are done, before they move on to their next step, always, always, always smooth your piece out with a wet paper towel. That, 1, is going to add a little more moisture back into your project, but 2, it's going to make sure that your project is prettier and you don't have all these sharp little burrs on there. So there, that looks good. I've smoothed that out. Now this little monster right here, he's not going to be a monster this way. He's going to be turned on his side, which I know is hard for you guys to see right there, but we're going to kind of squish it down. And there's our little new monster mouth, like, hi, just like that. Perfect. So our little monster is going to stay just like that. Now I can add all of my details, all of my attachments. Now, this is where the really important part comes in. Most of these students that you are teaching, especially if you're in Fairfax County, they have already learned how to score, slip, and blend. So what that means is when we are attaching an item to our clay, we need to make sure we score, slip, and blend. And I will explain that to you guys as we move on here. Each time I will remind you. Just a couple of examples that we have here of monsters that are, 1, the correct size, right? I like to remind my students, they're all getting the same amount of clay. If they make their project really thin, it can be bigger. We don't want their project to be bigger. They all need to be a uniform size. And the reason for that is, 1, equity, makes it fair for all the students. But 2, it makes sure that the all of the projects fit onto our kiln shelf. Our kiln shelves are where one class goes, and if the projects are too big, they don't all fit, and then they have to go on another classes shelves, and then that gets to be really, really tricky because we can confuse and lose people's pieces. So all of the attachments on these are short, thin, fat, simple. This one is pushing the boundaries. That's why I pulled this one out for you guys. I would encourage kids to definitely do not make it longer or thinner than this particular one. So now that we've got that, all of our little attachments, let's start with an eyeball. We're gonna give this monster just one eyeball. He's gonna be a cyclops. Most of the students are really, really good with coming up with these ideas for their monsters. It's just in their little kid brain. So when we attach this to this, we cannot just set it on or press it down like that. Clay has muscle memory and it wants to separate back to the way it was before. So when it dries, just honestly, the wind blowing it will knock that off of there. And then the students are really sad when their monster comes back and has no eyeball. So our steps again for this are score. Hello. Art school, hard to spell sometimes. Score, slip, and blend. And probably can't really see that very good. All right, score, slip, and blend. So to score this means we're going to make a hashtag. Sometimes my kids will just call it a hashtag, right? So the hashtag acts as the Velcro for our clay. So where I'm gonna put this eyeball, I'm gonna make a little hashtag. That's one side of my Velcro right there. On the other side of what I'm attaching, I'm going to do another hashtag. That's our score. It's just a little scratch rough mark right there. Slip, traditionally in ceramics, slip is actually made of watered down clay. That's just not really feasible for the schools because you guys travel, so water does just as good of a trick. So we're gonna dip a little bit of water. That's our slip. We're gonna press it down. Our last and honestly probably most important step to this is blend. So when I say blend, what I mean is the line where these two attach needs to disappear. So you can still see the line here where these two attach. So this is very difficult for most students. Generally, when I am teaching, which sadly is not very often these days, but when I do get to teach, I go around after helping my kinders. So I do my demo first, and then I go around to help all my kinders. And then I go around the rest of the class and I literally just pick up the students' work and I start blending. I say, hey guys, remember you got to blend this. And after you do it a couple of times, the students generally will be a lot better about doing it. But so I've made that line disappear. This is now one piece of pottery. This and this are now combined. If they want to get really fancy and help out their little joint right there, they can use their paintbrush and go in and blend like that. That's always very helpful, and it helps to erase those kind of blending marks right there. Look, beautiful. All right. So now that we've got that guy, I'm gonna add, I think I'm gonna add maybe 2 little arms. So instead of doing these long, beautiful arms, I'm gonna do like a little short, stumpy arm. And a little arm is just gonna be out of a coil. And remember, I'm not making this very fat. I want it to not explode in the kiln. So it's just going to be kind of in the middle, not very skinny, not very fat, just kind of in the middle. Now, most of your students will know how to make these shapes. The one question we do get asked a lot is, how do you make an animal ear? Because you will have, you always have that one student who's like, can I make this a unicorn monster? So our general rule is make your project what the lesson plan is. So it needs to be a monster, but if you really want it to be a unicorn, make a unicorn monster. Sure, I'm okay with that. As long as your project generally adheres. What we cannot do is let someone just make a unicorn, because then that's not fair to all the other students who are following the directions. And then at that point you have anarchy and uprising. So if a kid wants to make something specific, sure, make that, as long as it is also a monster. Fine by me. All right, so we're gonna add our little arms here. We're gonna do our score, slip, blend. So I'm gonna score my arm. That's my hashtag. I'm gonna put it right here. There's my hashtag. I'm gonna slip, dab my water on this guy. Press it in nice and firm. Man, this is cute. All right, most important step, go around and blend. Just pressing my pencil into that little mark like that, and I'll clean that little line up. Now, if you have kindergartners, most likely they're not able to do this. You will have to go around and help them. If you ever have older kids who are finished early, you can always ask them, hey, would you mind going around and helping make sure people's attachments are blended? And then at the end of the day, it's important that you guys remember, if the students don't get to it, you guys will need to get to it before the end of the day. So this clay is going to dry really fast. I scored, slipped, and now I'm going to attach and blend. This clay is going to dry really fast. And as clay dries, if you remember in the video, the first training video from the slideshow, the different stages of clay. As this clay is no longer the wet plastic clay, it's going to become leather hard, and you no longer can attach things at that point. So if I get these back to the studio and something is not scored, slipped, and blended, there's really nothing I can do about it at that point. It's just gonna have to fall off. There we go, that's pretty cute. So I'm gonna call it, I'm gonna say my monster is good. Last thing that I need to do here, step number 5, is to finally use your pencil to add additional designs and texture to our monster. So when we see designs and texture, here's the difference. These monsters have very little texture. They're very smooth and simple. In this example right here, you can see that someone made little lines here to give that kind of the effect of, I don't know what that's supposed to be, metal on there. And then the mustache also has little lines in it. So I'll show you like in this little mustache. That's gonna give it some really nice dimension. And then also you've got your students who are gonna finish way too fast, and you just have to keep telling them, go back and add more, go back and add more. So our eyeballs, we want what, like a nice little pupil for our eyeball right there. So I'm gonna put that in there. I may add another little dot in there. If I want to get real cute, I can put some little lines coming off of it like that. I can add stuff to the back of this. I could draw whatever I wanted on this. I kind of like the polka dot. I'm feeling polka dots right now. So I can add some little, we're going to call these freckles. This is a little freckly monster. That's pretty cute. So I can add that. I could get as detailed as I wanted to with this pencil, honestly. You can draw absolutely anything with this. I could divide this into like little fingers. That's pretty cute. And then one more thing to note about our monsters is you're gonna have students that want to make teeth. Teeth are tricky. There is just no way around that. They're tricky. So how you make a tooth is going to be the same way as making an ear for an animal, as we were mentioning earlier. You're gonna have your students are gonna ask about this. It's easy. Roll a tiny ball of clay in your fingers and then pinch only one side like this. Flip it, pinch again. That makes it into a triangle. That is both a cat ear, that is both a unicorn horn, or it's a tooth. It's whatever you want to do. Now, when you tell your students, when they're putting their teeth in there, if they're getting frustrated or they're like, I can't do it, then say, you know what? It's a baby monster. Don't give it any teeth. It doesn't have to have the teeth. Not everybody's monster needs teeth. If they do add their teeth, they need to make sure that they score, they need to make sure that they slip, and they need to make sure that they blend, or else those teeth are going to come off. I would not spend the entire class trying to help the students put on teeth, because you will honestly be there all day long because they will want 1,000 teeth. They'll be doing like little shark monsters, and you really can't get to the back of the teeth to blend. So I would encourage them, if you're going to make a tooth, only make a couple, and know that your teeth, there's a good chance that it's going to fall off. So that's it. I mean, that's my monster. He's very cute. So you guys have, you know, an hour with these students to make it, so yours can be a whole lot more detailed than this. If you have your early finishers, make sure that you keep sending them back. What else can you add to it? What else can you draw to it? What kind of texture can we put on it? Last important thing, when you write your name on this, remember we do not write the names on the bottom, because when we do that, it's going to sit in your bin for a week before I get it, and then by the time I get it, I can barely read what that is. And then I don't know, who it belongs to. So whenever you're writing on your pieces, it needs to be on a part that's not going to be smashed. So don't put it on the back. I mean, on the bottom. You only want to put it on the back. So when you're writing a name, we're going to use the sharpest pencil we have or a pen. And the students do not write their names. I know they will say, I can do it, I can do it. I just don't trust it at the end of the day that I'm going to be able to read it. It has to be legible. So I am Alyssa, so I'm going to write Alyssa right here. And then I also need my last initial because there's more than one Alyssa. Sometimes in a class, you will have, very often, you will have two students with a name, particularly popular ones like Amelia. But also there will be multiple ones across in all of our 700 students. You will probably have, 20 Amelias and 15 Jacks and what have you. And in the off chance that one of these pieces gets misplaced, because again, we do have 700 pieces coming through the studio every single week, we need to make sure that we have that last initial so that I can go back and search through the rosters to figure out where it belongs if it does get misplaced. There we go. So Alyssa B, that's the name. That's not going to get rubbed off. If you're putting these in your bin and they are touching the other monsters, make sure you put dry paper towels in between them so that they don't stick together. And then we don't stack monsters on top of each other because they're too heavy. And if you stack them, they will squish down like that and get broken. All right, guys, so that's pretty much it for this one. I think you guys are really going to like this project. They're very cute. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.